Hello everyone, the lining collector here. And what you're looking at, I don't know why my door is doing that. I thought I closed it. Anyways, it's very windy outside, so I apologize. We are deciding to have a cold front in the middle of March because why not? That's going to make the temperatures from, the low to mid 80s all the way down to the 30s for some reason. So that's what's blowing in right now as we as you watch this video. So I picked these up off of Marketplace on Friday for $10 for both of these things. And yes, they are indeed still preheat, thankfully. And they are also either pre-war or during the war production. World War II, mind you. And obviously, because this is the only, well, okay, it's not the only war. Obviously, it's happened since fluorescents have been invented, but it was, it occurred right after fluorescents were invented. Well, as we know them today. Technically, they were invented in 1908 along with mercury vapor, but that's a separate video, and a lot of y'all probably already know that. So these are made by Westinghouse, and I thought they were 50s until I opened the ballast, and to my surprise, I did not find a normal ballast like this in there. No, 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 no. What I found instead, if I could find, there it is. Oh, my flashlight has 0 battery. Wow, cool. Didn't realize that was the case. Okay, makes it a little harder to see then, but I have the garage door closed for obvious reasons, otherwise I'd have it open. That is right, folks. That is a integrated and fully potted into the fixture ballast for 4 lamps, which is something that I have never seen before, ever. And yeah, it's interesting to say the least. They effectively did not intend you to either ever have to replace the ballast, or they intended it to just, when it dies, time to get something else. I believe it was made this way primarily due to the time period it was made in, as whether it was made in 1941 or 1943 or 45 or whatever. The war was going on in other countries at the time, and we were gearing up in preparation for the possibility of having to fight, and sure enough, we did. As Pearl Harbor got bombed, and then we were basically forced into war that way. So they probably intended for this to be just a cost-saving measure, is my best guess for why they did it this way. It does appear, however, that it could be replaced as a unit, because this entire assembly screws onto this part of the fixture, or rather, this part of the fixture screws onto this, meaning that you could, in theory, buy just the hanger part and the ballast and just screw it onto the fixture. Although I wonder what the cost of that versus just replacing the entire thing was back then. Obviously, though, it did indeed last this long. 80 years or so later, they work perfectly. So, yeah. Cool stuff about it also is that it has the starters on the top, and the lamps themselves are entered in from the top. Unfortunately, it did not, or these do not have the glassware or potentially the louvers, because there have been sightings of this exact fixture before. One different collector, Tate Thomas, who is on YouTube, I believe, he has 3 of these, and they have louvers on the bottom and glass on the sides. The difference is they don't have this brace in the middle. The reason that I think this probably was an all-glass fixture is because of this. It appears, at least, like you would have 2 different 2-foot glass panels placed here And then the side panels just be, you know, since they're thin enough, long 4-foot side panels there. I could be wrong. It could have still been louvers just split into 2-foot sections, maybe. I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't have it, so I have to just sit here and guess. If I do acquire stuff for this, I actually think I'd rather have glass made for it, because I think that would be cool. I do like louvers, but I think it would be neat if it was some kind of like hammered or waterfall glass maybe, or something of that sort, or just frosted glass on the bottom part and the sides. I think that would look cool, but I like how they look without anything. I may, for the time being, just remove this middle part entirely and just keep them as a 4-bulb fixture like they are until I decide to lightly restore these. The reason I say lightly is because it has the original labeling and diagrams still on the top of the fixture, and I'm terrified to cover that up. So if I did restore it, I would have to leave this area alone, as it even has the logo and the starter diagram telling you what starters go to what lamps, which is really cool. So the outer ones are the outer lamps, inner ones are the inner, which is a smart way to do it. Some manufacturers did just these two would be for one side and those two for the other, but they did it that way where it's inner and outer, and that's neat. Also, the ballast itself has cover, and it does have a wiring diagram on it as well, and a lot of information. It's hard to read, but it does say Westinghouse, and then a serial number of some sort, I assume. And it says constant wattage auto transformer, or high power factor constant wattage. Or sorry, high power factor auto transformer ballast for 4 40-watt fluorescent lamps. The constant wattage is not on there. That was more of a mercury vapor thing and HID. And furthermore, this is potted exactly the way that a remote mercury vapor, metal halide, or high pressure sodium ballast would be potted, like this one right here. And all the other ones I have in this garage. This blue one over here, for example. This other GE one here, this GE one there, this Westinghouse one, and then the other two I have, or other three, are on the other side of that stuff. So, enough of the rambling on about the fixtures themselves. I know a little bit more information about them now. I made another video yesterday with the door open and all that stuff, but because I posted the stuff in the groups and got more info about these, I decided it's worth making another video, and I'm going to put that one back together. I'll put the cover on and put bulbs in it, of these, and then have both of these in operation, because actually I haven't hooked this one to power yet. I assume it works, considering this one does, but I want to make sure the health of everything, because this does have capacitors that are PCB filled. That's one there, and it looks like it's two lamp ballast cores just out of the case, submerged in all this ballast potting tar. It's very, very interesting. I've never seen anything like this, but I was told that they're very likely done that way for conservation of materials, and I think, pretty sure that's how some of the older industrial type fixtures were also made. At least that's what I've been told on Facebook, on my group, my fluorescent lighting group that I have. That's where all the comments came from. So anyways, I have this hooked up to the old kilowatt here. Again, sorry about the wind noise. But as always, we gotta do some startups. It's very interesting the way that this was wired. It appears that they did, instead of doing inner and outer lamps, they just kind of did an offset pair design there, because that's kind of how it starts up every single time, is number 1 and number 3 and number 2 and number 4, as you can see. using the Leviton starters that I use in these lights over here. To make it more fun and blinky. But I just want you to hear if the wind will shut up, how quiet this is for being 80 plus years old. Listen. There is a minimal amount of hum from this ballast, despite it being so old. And I did put black enders in this just because it is a Westinghouse fixture. They're not as old as the fixture, obviously, but they would say Mazda on them if they were. If anybody'd like to donate me some old ass fixture or bulbs like that, that'd be great. I don't think I have any 4-foot 50s lamps. I've only got 2-foot and 15 watt, so 18-inch lamps from that era. All my 4-foot stuff, the oldest I've got, I believe, are 60s, mid to late, and then everything else is mostly 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. Ooh, ow, I crashed into my own toolbox there. But what's really cool is it draws only 0.6 amps more than what the tag on the top of the fixture says it's supposed to draw. It's supposed to draw 1.7 amps. This draws 1.76 to 1.78, depending. Got 209 to 210 watts. And a power factor of 95 to 96, which is really, really, really good considering the age. And just in general. I mean, I have a lot of newer fixtures in the HID camp anyways that have a power factor worse than that, and they are new. Like the GE M400R3 I made a video of a couple weeks back. That thing had a power factor of like 20 or 30 before I replaced the capacitor. And that's from 03. It's 23 years old. Meanwhile, this thing over here is absolutely ancient and has a better power factor. Because Westinghouse has always been the best, and there's just so much proof of that it's just not even funny. There's no reason to argue. Go ahead and turn off the overhead lights here to just show you how well it drives these lamps. I mean, that is very bright for being so old. All 4 tubes are equal brightness too, which is really nice to see. That means that everything, the lag side and the lead side of each are equal, which sometimes these ballasts will have the lag side, or the weak side as they call it, a little dimmer, but these are all strong. I mean, it's just nuts to me that this is that good. And I definitely want to use these in my next house's garage, as it's just too cool. And I want to get my 40s or 50s shop light up there too. Yeah, there you go, 0.96. Get another start up here. Yeah, it's interesting they wired it that way. I would have expected them to do the inners and outers, but maybe that's not what they did all the time. So yeah, really cool. I'm gonna pause the video here since I'm just recording on my iPhone. And then I'm going to tinker around, get this one back up or back together, and then put the Ultra Lume lamps in here. I'm gonna run the same 3000K bulbs I've got up here for the other fixture, and I'll see if I can get both of them in the same shot and have some startups with each fixture. And for giggles here, we'll do those. So I will be back in a little bit. Okay, well, I guess it took too long and my phone locked itself and the video automatically ended. So instead, I'm just gonna edit these two together. But I have the other one assembled here and with bulbs. Had to go through some different starters because I was having issues, and The ones they came with were working, but very boring. The ones on this one, actually a couple were stuck. But they also were kind of slow, and that's a common thing with F40s, is they ended up getting, more often than not, really bad starters that would not quickly and efficiently start up the lamps. So that was another reason why they became less popular. And I honestly feel like it was intended to do so, or they intended to do that to push the rapid start crap, because F40 preheat was pretty much gone by the 80s entirely. Like, they didn't even offer the single lamp strips in preheat past, I think, the 70s. I could be wrong. There might have been a couple of outliers, but it does seem like it was gone by the 80s, and the only things left were F20 and F15 and F14 and all the T5s. So anyways, I'll go ahead and just start up this fixture first. I put some VL, which means vertebrae lustra, which are essentially Phillips starters. I have a bunch of those, and I pop these in, and they have pretty good results. So here you go. It's not crazy blinky like the Levitons, but they're pretty close, and you get at least 1 to 2 tubes fired up within a couple seconds. That's what I like. I don't need all the tubes to start up at the same time, obviously, because where's the fun in that? But it would be nice to have a little bit of light when you walk in the room instead of waiting for it. That was how the original starters were. You would sit there and it would eventually ding, dong, ding, dong, with barely any blinking. And we'll go ahead and go through the health of this ballast. Again, amazing. Actually the same as the other fixture. Running a little bit more wattage, just by a couple. But a 96 power factor and 1.78 amps. These are both in the exact same operation health as each other, which is just incredible. So, and we're running at 123 volts here. I get a little bit higher voltage than 120 in this house, I've noticed, but that's okay. It's pretty stable at the same. Doesn't really fluctuate much, I've noticed. But that is truly impressive, considering the age. I'm just in awe, honestly. Very good performance there. So now I'm going to plug in the other fixture, and I forgot to mention these already had cords hooked up to them. They advertised these as being plug-in fluorescent fixtures. So I wonder where these were used because of that. And they're old cords too. I mean, they're not new. So we'll go ahead and get some 8 lamp preheat action here. Oh yeah, look at that. And you get the nice contrast of the cool white versus the warm white. And we're still running at probably the same power factor, I would imagine. Yep. And we're at 416 watts with 3.5 amps total. That is just beautiful. And let's shut off the big lights here, although they're the same size. Just look at that. Would you look at that? Would you just look at it? But yeah, this is amazing. I mean, truly, I never thought I'd find something like this here on Marketplace, because generally, if this stuff surfaces, it's either still in use, because we like to use old things in this state, or some jackass from somewhere else, sorry for the language, it's just annoying, comes in, remodels a building, trashes them. They're either from here or often from somewhere else, seems to be. Just the way it happens, I've noticed. But yeah, it's hard to find these for sale, generally speaking, because they're either, again, in use or they just get tossed. There's really not a lot of in between. So the fact that these did pop up for $10 for both of them, mind you, not just one, no, both of them. So it's $5 a piece for these things. It's just remarkable. I must say, I'm still in shock. I cannot wait to use these things. I'm excited to use them. I might use the black enders in them and just have other warm white stuff in the garage to offset that, or I'll just use these because I think I have enough to run 8 in these 2 fixtures and then have 2 more fixtures worth of them, maybe. I don't remember. If not, I've got some neutral deluxes which are close and close enough to work, so I can put those in too. And if not, I'll find some like Satco or Halco 3000K lamps. Since I know Philips quit making them, they only make 3500 as the lowest color temperature now, sadly. So enough rambling. Let's get some more 8 lamp preheat action here. I do prefer how the Leviton starters sound. The VL starters are very, very quiet. And, oh, interesting. Why are we doing that? Not sure if it's the starter, the lamp, or capacitors. Probably should let that one run a bit more without cycling it. I bet that would be better for it, just because it hasn't... I don't know when these were last used. They seem to have been used recently based on how they're performing, but we'll do these 2. I just like how loud the Levitons are. And all my other currently unused but recently hooked up F40 fixtures have the same starters in them, which is why I'm running low on them. In fact, I don't think I have enough to use in that light, the other one, hence why I didn't use them. But I think I need to find if they still make them. If not, I'll look up and see if I can buy more, because I really, really, really like these starters. I must say they're probably my favorite F40 starters I've ever had. They are splendidly blinky, and I quite enjoy that. So anyways, I know this video is kind of long. I brought a bunch of other starters down here too. But it's worth it, I think. These things are freaking awesome, and I will make more videos of them in the next place. I hope to hang them up. That's the plan anyways. Now, if a ballast ever has an issue, I have zero clue what I would do. My best guess is to just make it remote ballasted somehow, because there's no other part of the fixture I can really stash a ballast in besides there, and I'm not sure how easy it would be to actually remove those, all that ballast hardware stuff. I don't think it's removable. Didn't appear to be so. But I hope I don't have to cross that road. I really do hope, and probably will be the case considering it's Westinghouse, I don't have to deal with that for at least 10 plus years, I guarantee. And likely what I'll do also to preserve these is to not use them in certain climate or weathers. Certain temperatures. There we go. There's the English I wanted. Because I guarantee 100% there is zero thermal protection in these fixtures. There is probably none. So I don't want to cook these. So I'll probably have additional lighting like these where I can get the ballast easier, and I also have, you know, ballasts with automatic heat cutouts and all that fun stuff to use during those times. And then these would be used on more normal days, or just for short amounts of time during the heat, because I do not want to, although I bet you I could replace capacitors. I think those are unearthed already enough that they probably are replaceable, and maybe that was the intention. But that runs the risk of, or the possibility of, the capacitors themselves killing the ballast, because these ancient capacitors would short into a closed, or they would fail into a short instead of failing into an open circuit, therefore completely overriding or overdriving the ballasts and just cooking them. That is why so many old mercury fixtures do that. In fact, this ballast can right here is actually doing that. This old 50s GE does not work. I have it to prop the gate open, actually. That's why I have it. And because it came with the Form 400 I got off Marketplace. And sure enough, when you hook it up to power and you wire it the way it's intended to be for 120 volts, it just trips the breaker because the capacitor has failed into a short circuit. So I guarantee you the same thing will happen with these, unless I happen to catch them before they grenade themselves and then replace capacitors, which is another thing I'll be doing, is constantly monitoring the health of these. I might even get their own kilowatts so that I can constantly monitor the health of the ballasts that way. Just because these are the coolest, besides the T17s, fixtures I have. So yeah, I am really happy I got these. I'm glad to share this with y'all. I know it's a longer video than I usually do. I apologize, but those who stayed to the end, thank you. I do appreciate all the support I've gotten on this channel. I didn't intend it to ever get nearly this many subscribers in the first place. And as a reward, here's another 8 lamp preheat startup here. Oddly enough, the other fixture seems to be wired, or at least they start inner and outer lamps. Wonder why. But then again, this was in the time where between these two fixtures, there's probably slight variations anyways, because that was just the time period. So, yeah. I think that's really all I have to say about these. I'm going to get a couple of clips of these starting up together for Facebook and so forth, but thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to hang these up. When I do hang them up, I will definitely make a video of that. They still make the brackets for these, like a threaded IP bracket big enough to fit that. They still make those at the hardware stores, so I'll just go buy 2 of those and hang them with the stems, because they're short enough that they'll fit on an 8-foot ceiling no problem, and they'll go on a 12-foot ceiling no problem. So I don't see any reason to modify the mounting at all. If I really wanted longer stems, that's easy to get as well. So I'm not too worried. And if I do end up kind of lightly restoring these and even putting glassware or louvers and glassware on, I will, of course, make an updated video on that, and maybe even a video on the process of restoring these things. But yeah, they do have the model number on the tag. I just didn't even think to mention it. I don't remember it either. But if anybody has additional information about these fixtures that is watching this, that'd be splendid if you guys could comment that. I would love to hear more about these. And also, if anybody happens to have more of these than who I already know has some, that'd be cool to know. And one more fun fact before I close this video out. These holes here, that's not actually for a cord probably, or not just for a cord. I've seen pull chains mounted there too, for individual controlling. So that's kind of cool, although they used it for the cord hole. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I pretty much covered every basis. Thanks again. Goodbye. See you later.